Well, hello, BookTube. It's been a little while, and that's no fault of your own. It's not you, it's me. Life has been just absolutely bonkers for the last month, and you know, it's okay. I've been doing a lot less reading than I had expected to do, especially with Ancient Sathan, an event that I was excited about. I was co-hosting and failed miserably at being a great co-host for it. Um, didn't make any kind of content, and Tori, Jennifer, I'm sorry. I was a terrible, terrible partner for that. Um, and it turned out to be probably my worst reading month since I started BookTube, even though I did finish a couple of books. So we're going to just scratch that month out. And we're going to instead talk about the mid-year book freakout tag, where we reflect back on the first half of the year and talk about the books that have been just absolute standouts. So there's 13 questions here, really 12, because one of them is not a very good question. So first question here is the best book you've read in 2022, and it's unfortunate. I had a really hard time answering this question. And not because I read a lot of really, really great books. It's been tough to pick it, and I wanted to avoid a reread filling this spot, but I ultimately think that this book deserves to be in the spot. No, it's not Tolkien. Sorry. That'd be the obvious one because I did reread some Tolkien this year. But I'm going to go with Three Musketeers. It's been forever since I had read this. My second time reading it, and I absolutely delighted in the book. So, Alexander Dumas, congratulations. You have won the mid-year freakout tag right here. Best book of 2022 that I read. And it's not even close. Except for the book I'm going to talk about for the best sequel. And that's why I wanted to keep them separate, because this one fills the best sequel, but this is probably the best book that I've read. I'm holding up Assassin's Apprentice because that's book one in this trilogy. It's the only one I physically own. But book two is what would go in the spot, Royal Assassin, although Assassin's Quest is also fantastic and is a close contender. Hobb is just magnificent. Her writing is beyond anything that I could have expected. And I absolutely love it. And I can't wait to read more Hobb. I have waited to read more Hobb, and I'm going to continue to wait, but, whatever. So, new release to read. So, earlier this year, I read the first book in the John Gwynne series. I think Shadow of the Gods is the name of the first book. And I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's got the big giant wolf on the cover. And that is probably the one that would go in this spot of the one I'm looking forward to reading. That or Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi. Either of those would fit in the spot. Neither of them I'm dying to get around to. But I am interested in at least a couple of newer releases. And then anticipated release that you're excited to read. And I thought I was going to have a hard time with this one. And I was kind of scrolling through and I kind of had some so answers. And then I came across a book that is coming out later this year that I genuinely didn't know anything about, didn't know it was coming. But I am 100% excited about this. And that is called Great Tales Never End. And this is a collection of essays about Christopher Tolkien. So J.R.R. Tolkien's son, who did a whole bunch of work as editor and compiler of Tolkien's works, who passed away not that long ago. And so this is a volume with essays dedicated to him and his memory and his works and what he did. And I absolutely want to read it. So yeah, I have a very good answer on this one. Much better than last year's cop-out of the Library of America Ray Bradbury, which is what I think I answered with. Number 5, biggest disappointment, and I have a lot of them that I could have listed here. I've had a lot of stinkers. Most recently, I just finished listening to We Are the Ants and just did not have a good time of it. I was Voxering with Scott Danielson about other things, and the only reason I was able to finish it, I did finish it yesterday, because I was still waiting on a couple of holds that were coming through soon. So I didn't really want to jump into a new book and then have that hold come through. I since have gotten Prelude to Foundation came through yesterday, so I've got that checked out and ready. But since it was a short book and it was on audio and I was waiting on another hold to come through, I went ahead and powered through it and just did not really enjoy it at all. But I think the biggest disappointment, and there's a lot of them, City of God by St. Augustine has been disappointing. My Western that I read by Max Brand last month was a disappointment. It was not great. There have been a couple of books that I've DNF'd over the course of the year. And one of them is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. This is garbage. Not at all for me. I read through the first 2 books of it and realized there's absolutely no value in this for me right now. This is not the book I want to read. And so I set it aside, and it will be leaving my collection. I have no need for it, and I have no need to return back to it. So, sorry, Marcus Aurelius. Your meditations are not something I want to meditate on. But the biggest surprise also was something that I read as part of Ancients Thought. So we have something positive to talk about from June. Not the only thing that's positive to talk about from June, but it was a month of, by and large, a lot of disappointments. So biggest surprise was actually These Are the Saxons by Wonderkind of Corvey. This is a relatively short history of the Saxons, and it is extremely readable. I don't know if it's the translator or the author itself. That is just fantastic. But I had a hard time putting it down. It's a real page turner. I absolutely enjoyed it. I imagine that this is what going to be on par with something like Herodotus, which I really need to get to Herodotus. I've read a little bit of Herodotus and have really enjoyed it. This is obviously a lot shorter, but this is absolutely enjoyable. And I'm happy to have that as my favorite surprise. The Mabinogion was also a fantastic read. I really enjoyed that one. But I went into it expecting to, based on recommendations from people like Jack from the Rambling Raconteur. So it was less of a surprise and more of just a pleasant confirmation that, yes, this was a good one. So next we have favorite new author that you've discovered this year. Debut author, new to you, however you want to define it. And for this, there could only be one answer on this. Only one answer, and that is Harlan Ellison. I am just absolutely loving Harlan's writings. Last year I had several fantastic new to me authors, between Dan Simmons, Robert E. Howard, both of those being the two that stand out above all others. But we have Joe Haldeman, Alfred Bester, lots and lots of excellent authors that were new to me, and I haven't had nearly as many this year, mostly because I haven't really been able to venture outside the box yet. But Harlan Ellison has been outstanding, and I've really enjoyed that. So question 8 is your favorite crush, and I'm going to skip this one because there's no value in that. Number 9, favorite character. I have to say that one of my favorite characters has been the Harlequin from Repent Harlequin, said the TikTok man. That character just stands out to me. Just a really, really, it's amazing what Harlan did in such a short span of text. A close second would probably be one of the characters from the next book I'm going to hold up. And a close third would be one from the one I'll hold up after that. So let's get to book that made me cry. I'm skipping. No books have made me cry this year. So number 11, a book that made you happy. And we're going to talk about Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. It wasn't quite good enough to be a contender for my favorite book of the year. It'd probably be in my top 5 so far. I did really, really enjoy it, but it didn't blow me away like I expected it to. And it follows 3 point of view perspectives in here. And one of these characters, Orca, I believe it is just fantastic. All of the characters in here are really well done. I love the setting. I love a lot of what was going on in here. And I'm excited to read the second book in the series to see if that raises things up, to see if John Gwynne can join Harlan Ellison among the ranks of great new-to-me authors, or if it's going to be, a sophomore slump. Everything I'm hearing is that it's fantastic. So I do have high expectations going into it, just like I had pretty high expectations going into that. I was expecting a lot of epicness with that dragon, and that was a big disappointment. Most beautiful acquisition. So the most beautiful book that you've gotten this year. And I've gotten some good books. I haven't gotten anything that's been like remarkable in terms of fancy editions. I got those last year. And so I got to thinking about it and different ways to interpret that. And we're going to go with Monstrous. I've got Volume 1, which I picked up myself, and Volume 2, which I have upstairs on my nightstand, which I got from Amanda from Reading and Writing Life. And I still need to get around to cracking that open. I've had that up there, but that's how my June's gone. It started off really, really strong for that first week, and then it just tanked. And so Monstrous, the artwork in here is just magnificent. So not only is this one of my favorite books that I've read this year, my favorite graphic novel by far, even I think above Saga. But it's just really, really gripping story. Really fantastic art in here. So I absolutely love Monstrous. I saw that Volume 7 of Monstrous is coming out later this year. And so that was going to be until I ran across that Tolkien, the Christopher Tolkien essays that are coming out. That was going to be my answer, was Volume 7 of Monstrous, because I am absolutely loving it. I'm happy to have the first 2 volumes, and I have a feeling that it won't be very long into July before I'm looking to check out Volume 3, 4, 5, 6 to try to catch up on it. I'm on that self-imposed book buying restriction right now, where I'm just buying one a quarter and being intentional about it. And now that we have a new quarter starting, I need to figure out what book I'm going to pick up sometime in the next couple months. And maybe it will be a Monstrous volume. Who knows? And so last is books that you still need to read this year. And that's a tough one to do, because need to read, there's none that I need to read. I'm still chipping my way through The Fall of Hyperion. I picked that up in the last couple days and have been just devouring it. I've been devouring Golden Apples of the Sun by Ray Bradbury. Just today, I got through almost 100 pages of that, and it's just been a breath of fresh air getting back to that. I need to finish the rest of that Harlan Ellison collection. Those are all ones I have started that I'd like to get to. The poetry volume that's compiled by... why am I drawing a complete blank on it? But the massive poetry volume that I had. Harold Bloom, compiled and edited by Harold Bloom. I've still got a couple 100 pages to go through on that, and I want to finish all of those this year. but none of those are obligations. But there are a couple other books that I kind of have my eye on that I'd like to try to get to. The entire rest of the Hyperion Cantos for sure is on there, and more Bradbury, because I need to get. I have failed miserably on reading every book by Ray Bradbury. I don't think I've finished one yet this year, which I will be changing that here soon, hopefully this weekend, as I finish Golden Apples of the Sun. So I could hold up a whole bunch of Bradbury books here, including The Halloween Tree. I am going to hold up The Conquering Sword of Conan and The Bloody Crown of Conan. I want to get back to Conan. I've read none of the Conan stories this year. I need to get back to those. And I'm excited to get back to those. I would love to read the good stuff. These are adventures in science fiction in the grand tradition. This was sent to me by the one and only Michael K. Vaughan, and I'm very excited to get to this because it's got a lot of really well-known authors inside of here. So I want to get to this. I'm absolutely loving short stories right now. And that's one of the things I found picking up the Bradbury. And just the other day picking up the Hyperion, Fall of Hyperion, and going back into that. Yes, things have been busy, and yes, I've been slumping, but I think it was more of I was slumping because I was reading the books that I felt like I ought to be reading, rather than the books that I want to be reading. And so I have put a soft halt on some of those books that I was excited to try to read, but wasn't excited to actually be reading as I started to get into them. And then last but not least, this was my one acquisition in the month of June to wrap up that quarter. I found this at Half Price Books for, I think, $1.50. And this is the Science Fiction Hall of Fame. So the greatest science fiction stories of all time, edited by Robert Silverberg. Chosen by the members of the Science Fiction Writers of America. And I mean, Lester Del Rey says it's definitive. It lives up to its subtitle. And it's got a fantastic list of stories in here. 670 pages. It's got A Rose for Ecclesiastes by Roger Zelazny. It's got Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. It's got Fondly Fahrenheit by Alfred Bester. It's got, let's see here, Nightfall by Isaac Asimov. We got Sean Steadfast would probably be excited about Huddling Place by Clifford D. Simak, or The Weapon Shop by A. Van Vogt. We've got some Cordwainer Smith. We got Mars's Heaven by Bradbury. We got Kornbluth. We got Matheson in here. Fritz Lieber, James Blish, Arthur C. Clarke with The 9 Billion Names of God, which I actually read that recently and just absolutely enjoyed it. And I'm excited to revisit it at some point in time when I get to it in here, because I have no problem rereading that. So I would like to get to this as well. So, a whole bunch of short stories with the Conans and the science fiction short stories, but I think that's kind of hitting in my sweet spot right now. I'm finding that I'm still, and this started almost a year ago, very much enjoying science fiction more than anything else that I've been reading right now. And I'm excited to dive even more into that. And I think that's what I need, is just to kind of march back again on my own beat, because when I did that back in March and said about just canceling all my previous plans, I read 10 books in the first 10 days, or finished 10 books in the first 10 days. It was just mind-boggling. I haven't finished any books in the first 2 days of July yet, but I'm getting there. I'm within striking distance of one. So I'm excited. I'm glad to be making a video again. And you wouldn't believe how hard it's been to just sit down and be able to do this, which is why I've been silent. Not even because of the crappy second half of the month for the reading. It's been hard to find the time to carve out and sit down and make a video. And not all of it's been bad, by any means. So, thank you, BookTube. It's good to be back talking to you again. I look forward to hearing from you. Let me know if you got a mid-year freakout tag, I'd love to hear about it. Or if you don't have a channel and want to share the answers, I'll have them down below so that you can share with me what some of your answers are on some of these. So thank you and have a good day.